Good evening, everyone. It's Wednesday, March 19th, and we are continuing our journey in preparing for the CCS exam. And hopefully, you saw my email that I sent about an hour ago because I realized that the inpatient medical records that you all are working on, some of them require PCS codes. And I was like, whoa, we haven't done our review of PCS. And I also know that some of you don't even know PCS. And so I decided to push um, PCS, or I'm sorry, push the domain one review back a couple of weeks so that I could do my review of ICD-10-PCS. Okay, so I think we learned on Monday that your coding manuals are available and you just have to make arrangements to pick them up. But in the meantime, I have provided you with a copy of the ICD-10 CM guidelines, or not ICD-10, I'm thinking about ICD-10 CM. I provided you with the ICD-10 PCS guidelines, but then I've also provided you with an electronic version of the ICD-10 PCS tables and index. So I want to start off by just really kind of talking a little bit about what ICD-10 PCS is. I want to cover kind of like the who, what, when, where, and why, if you will. So we've been using ICD-10. Oh my gosh, this is our 10th year. We started using ICD-10 PCS October 1st of 2015. Wow, it seems like it was yesterday that I was learning ICD-10 PCS or ICD-10 period. I started learning ICD-10 in 2010 and went live 2015. Trained a lot of doctors and hospitals on this system. It was quite a good time, but it just shows you how fast life is passing us by. So this system was created for use in the United States only. And I think that's important to know because many of you may know that ICD-10 CM was created by the World Health Organization, and the United States adopted a version of it. So they call theirs ICD-10. We call ours ICD-10 CM for diagnosis codes. And so PCS is United States only. Now, what's really interesting is that development of this system started in 1993. And that just kind of tells you like how long it could take something to come to fruition. So it began being developed in 1993. In 1998, a new version of it became available, and eventually, it became a reality for us. ICD-10 PCS is only used for inpatient hospital services. We do not use this for outpatient. We only use it for inpatient hospital services. And it's not used by the doctor. It's only used by the facilities. Now, that's a little different than diagnosis codes, right? Because we use diagnosis codes in all settings. Um, just like ICD-10-CM, ICD-10-PCS was mandated by HIPAA. And let's see what else I want to tell you. Oh, and then my other part that you already know, we have guidelines. And one of the things that I think you will appreciate regarding the ICD-10 PCS guidelines is that we don't have like 100 and some odd pages for PCS. We only have 20 pages. So this weekend, I'm going to give you some homework. This weekend, one of your additional things to do is to read through these 20 pages of guidelines. All right, so let me see what else I want to tell you. This system has about, I think it's somewhere around 78,000 codes. And so, just like diagnosis coding, you're not going to memorize, these codes. They look totally different than ICD-10 CM codes, and we'll get into that in a second. Just want to give you some history. Something else you should know. Remember the other day we talked about the 4 cooperating parties? Well, ICD-10 PCS has 4 cooperating parties. They are the same cooperating parties for diagnosis coding. Now, just as a side note, because people are always, once you get certified, looking to get CEUs from different places. Well, there's this committee called the ICD-10 Coordination and Maintenance Committee. They hold meetings twice a year. They're open to the public, and they basically are a way for professional societies to bring forth potential new codes. Now, I will tell you, due to the administration change from President Biden to President Trump, there have been some changes at the federal government level. And so typically this meeting takes place April and October of each year. And I think it's somewhere around April 1st. I only know that because it's my birthday, April 1st. But anyway, this April's Coordination and Maintenance Committee was actually canceled. So we're not sure if we're going to have one in October. That's kind of to be determined. Let's see what else I want to tell you. Now, keep in mind, this is not a full-blown ICD-10 PCS course, so I'm not going to go too deep, but I want to give you some background information so that you'll have it. So just so I can make sure I've covered everything, let me just review what I've covered so far. So this system is ours in the US only. It is the system that HIPAA mandates that we use for inpatient codes. We are celebrating, well, I should say October 1st of 2025. We will celebrate our 10th year anniversary for ICD-10 PCS, which is really cool that it's been 10 years. I told you that it was, they began developing it in 1993, and I think it was 3M that was actually charged initially with the development of this. And then in 1998, another version came about, and then, here we are today. I did mention about the four cooperating parties, and so you should know who those four cooperating parties are. Um, AHA, AHEMA, CMS, and NCHS. And let me see. Oh, I told you about. Oh, so why did I tell you about the Coordination and Maintenance Committee? Because I just realized I didn't tell you. So it's held twice a year, April and October. It's open to the public. The proceedings are like broadcasted over the internet, but you can get CEUs for attending. That's really what I wanted to make sure I told you. So let's talk a little bit about the file that you have. And you shouldn't print this file because it's it's close to 2,000 pages. So CMS is the organization who maintains the ICD-10-PCS code set. And so that's the reason why we can get a downloadable copy. Now, of course, you can't take this file into the CCS exam, but we are using it for our purposes. So this particular file is what we will use to build our codes initially. Once everybody has their physical manuals, or if you have your physical manual, you can, use that. But I will give you a brief introduction to the manual. I want you to visualize that you have it in your hand. So, of course, at the very beginning of the manual, you have the guidelines, right? So these 20 pages that you see here are in the introduction in the actual physical code manual. And then the rest of the manual then transitions into the index. And this file, it has links that will allow you to get to one page to the next. And at the very top, you can click this link to get to the introduction. Now, I don't know if you don't have like Adobe software, if this will work for you. So I will tell you that the index starts on page 1371. So the index is in alphabetical order, just like you see in your diagnosis code manual. But I will tell you how we look up codes are totally different to some extent. Okay. So after the index in the real manual, you have then what are known as tables. So in CM, you have the tabular list. In PCS, you have the actual tables. And so I'm going to go to a table right now just so you can see that it is truly a table. So after the tables, and there's a lot of tables, then the rest of the manual is dedicated to appendices. And so things that you could see in an appendix would be definitions, which we'll talk about some definitions tonight. You can see an appendix that's called a body part key. You can see an appendix that's called a device key. You can see an appendix that's called a substance key. You can see an appendix that is a device aggregation table. Now, just like ICD-10-CM, the different publishers may have their different nuances that they add into the manual, but that's the general, I would say the general makeup, if you will. All right, so enough of that introductory stuff. Let's get into what the actual look like. And I'm going to go back to a table and give you some more information. And I'm trying to pace myself. I know this session is recorded, but I'm pacing myself so that you can keep track of your notes. So ICD-10 PCS codes always have 7 characters 100% of the time. Always have 7 characters 100% of the time. Also, I will tell you that these 7 characters are written in capital letters. And it includes letters and numbers, but they are uppercase and not lowercase. Each of the characters, each of the 7 characters have a meaning. So if you look at this screen here, and again, you have this file. I'm on page 132. This particular table here is table 001, but that's not a complete code because all codes are what? 7 characters long. And so this particular table, the first character is related to the section. And in ICD-10 PCS, there are 17 sections. The largest section in ICD-10 PCS is the medical and surgical section, and these codes begin with a 0. So then, because I'm talking about the medical and surgical section, I'm going to just kind of stay here for a minute. In the medical and surgical section, the second character represents the body system, the anatomical region, or the physiological system that's involved in the procedure. So if I go back just a tad bit to page 1 and then take myself back to the tables, first thing you will see is that there are 17 sections. Medical and surgical is the largest. It begins with a 0. Let me tell you something that you need to know. In ICD-10 PCS, the letter O and I are not used to eliminate confusion with numbers 0 and 1. Now, you know how I like to give you guys exams. Trust, there will be an intro to ICD-10 PCS exam. So whether you're taking notes now or you're going to go back and listen to the recording over the weekend, you decide. Highly recommend that you pay attention. So the letters O and I, and the letter O is kind of like round and fat, whereas the number 0 is narrow. So the letters O and I are not used in ICD-10 PCS to eliminate confusion with the 0 and the 1. So medical and surgical, the largest section of ICD-10 PCS. There are 17 sections total. Medical and surgical starts with a 0. All right. The second character for medical and surgical, and I'm being very intentional because right now we are only talking about medical and surgical. There are some slightly different rules for the other 16 sections, so I want to focus on medical and surgical only. So, medical and surgical, largest section, um, is further broken down into um, mm, 31 body systems. 31 body systems. So if you were to count these here, these are the 31 body systems. Now, I know you're thinking, like, wait a minute, wait a minute. When I took anatomy and physiology, I thought that there were only like 11 body systems. Well, you are correct. But what you are going to learn very quickly is that some of the things you learned in anatomy or even medical terminology are going to have a little slight twist in ICD-10-PCS. Okay, so second character, body system or anatomical region or physiological system, it's a total of 31 options. Now, what you should be noticing, because I've had this on the screen for a while, is that some of the larger body systems are broken down into subsystems. So for example, the circulatory system, you'll notice, has the heart and great vessels, the upper arteries, the lower arteries. I'm trying to count with my fingers, the upper veins, the lower veins, right? So you see that. And then there's another big one, the musculoskeletal system is divided into muscles, tendons, bursa and ligaments, head and facial bones, upper bones, lower bones, upper joints, lower joints. So you can kind of see that that's why ICD-10-PCS has 31 body systems in the medical and surgical section. The reason that it's so detailed is that this system allows for increased specificity with the actual codes that we will build. And I use the word build, BUILD, because in ICD 10 PCS, we don't assign codes, we build codes. All right, guys, let me give you a heads up. We just had a tornado warning. So if for some reason I drop out, just hang tight. I'll come back, once my access is restored. Okay. So first character, 0, medical and surgical, right? Second character is, so first character is the section. Second character is the body system. The third character is the root operation. And the root operation describes the objective of the procedure. Now, here's the challenge with the root operation. We as coders have to analyze the documentation to determine the objective of the procedure. Physicians don't go to school to learn PCS coding. So they are not going to know, they are not going to know these root operations. So let me go back to the home page, and I'm going to go to definitions and see if I can get something here. Yes. So I'm on page 1172. In the medical and surgical section, there are 31 root operations. Now, you guys remember when you had medical terminology and you had to make those flashcards? Here's what I would recommend that you do ASAP. ASAP, as in today is Wednesday. Whether you do Instacart, Target shipping, Walmart shipping, going to your local, I was going to say five and dime store, but we don't have those anymore. But your local Walmart, Office Max, whatever the case may be, you need to get some flashcards because you'll want to make flashcards for these 31 root operations. And what you want to do is on the front, you write down the root operation name, and then on the back, you write the definition. So there are 31 of these. And the really cool thing about these is that they are organized into groups based upon what they actually do. But your call to action for today is to get you some flashcards so that you can start learning these root operation for medical and surgical. All right, so we talked about, let me go back to the beginning. We talked about we are focusing on medical and surgical, which is the first of 17 sections. The first character of the ICD-10-PCS code is the section we're focusing on. We're focusing on medical and surgical. The second character is the body system. There are 31 body systems, physiologic, anatomical regions in the medical and surgical section. The third character is the root operation. That's the objective of the procedure. It is also one of the most challenging. And now I want to tell you why. So let me go on over to the gastrointestinal system. And I want you to notice that, so once I selected my system, it then is taking me to the root operation. And I'll show you how to do this in the index as well. But right now, I'm just kind of giving you this high level, intense introduction. So one of the reasons that you must learn the root operation is because what you learned in medical terminology is not necessarily the same in ICD-10 PCS language. And it is critical that you review the medical record documentation to determine what the objective of the procedure is. So let me give you an example. So the root operation excision means cutting out or off without replacement a portion of a body part. But the root operation resection means cutting out or off without replacement all of a body. So immediately you're like, wait a minute, they sound exactly the same. Well, let's go back over to our definitions. And excision, cutting out or off without replacement a portion of a body part. Resection, cutting out or off without replacement all of a body part. So you could assign the wrong ICD-10 PCS code by simply not applying the definitions. Please hear me clearly. Understanding these root operations and their definitions is key to being able to navigate ICD-10 PCS. There are 31 of them, and although other sections have root operations, some are different, some are similar, but right now we are focusing on the 31. I mentioned to you that these root operations are organized into groups, and I didn't tell you what the groups were yet, but there are 9 of them. And once I can get through the 7 characters, then I'll tell you what the 9 groups are. But right now, I want to just at least get through the 7 characters. All right, so we're talking about, and that this should be in your head at this point. We're talking about ICD-10 PCS. They always have 7 characters. Somebody asked me, why do you repeat things so many times? Because maybe the first time you didn't get it, but then the second or third time I say it, you're like, aha, it makes sense. All right, so we're talking about ICD-10 PCS. All codes have 7 characters. There are 17 sections. The largest section is medical and surgical. It starts with a 0. The letter O and I are not used so that they're not confused with 0 and 1. The second character is the body system. There are 31 body system options. The third character is the root operation. So let me go back to, I was going to gastrointestinal, and I'm going to go to excision because my doctor took out part of the body part. And now I am provided with a table. Section, medical and surgical, body system, gastrointestinal, operation, excision, cutting out or off without replacement, a portion of a body part, and now I am presented with my 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th option for this code. Oh, something I got to tell you. Let me see if I can put up a whiteboard, because I gotta tell you this. I have to tell you this because this is something that was helpful for me, and I'm going to tell you. So when I first learned ICD-10 PCS coding, I was presented with this sentence, and I'm trying to talk and type at the same time. I was presented with this sentence that helped me learn the 7 characters. And it's Susie buys root beer at Dairy Queen. S, section. B, body system. R, root operation. The second B, body part. A is the approach. D is the device. And Q is the qualifier. So Susie buys root beer at Dairy Queen. Now I want some ice cream. I love Dairy Queen. Okay, so I would highly recommend that you remember that because it is a great way to remember the 7 characters. All right, let's see. So now we're at character number 4. Character number 4 is the body part. And the body part is the specific body part for that body system. Using the 24 remaining letters in the alphabet, why do I say remaining? Because the letter O and the letter I aren't used. So using the remaining 24 alphabetical characters and 10 numbers, there are up to 34 body part value options for each body system. So again, the body part, which is the 4th character, is in relation to the 2nd character, which is the body part. So if you, no, the 2nd character is the body system. 4th character is the body part. So if you look on the screen here, I'm at table 0DB, and the D is for the gastrointestinal system. And then I have options for body parts. All right, I got to tell you a rule while it is in my head. When we build ICD-10-PCS codes, we build them from left to right. Let's see if I can draw on here. Let me see. Can I draw on here? Well, I guess you guys know what I mean by left to right. But let me see if I could say something that is critical. Okay, guys, we have a tornado warning, so I'm going to have to, the sirens are going off, so I'm going to have to pause right here and come back. Hey, everybody, I'm back. You guys there? All right. Okay, so tornado did touch down in our area. So let me review so that I can just put us right back where we left off. So we're talking about PCS, always 7 characters. We learned that there's an acronym, Susie buys root beer at Dairy Queen, which we all can use to remember. We talked about that there were 17 sections. The first section is the medical and surgical section. And so that brought us to the 2nd character, which is the body system. There's 31 options. Then we went to the root operation. There's 31. There's 31 root operations. Maybe while I was in the basement hiding from the hurricane or tornado, whatever it was, you guys were writing your flashcards. Maybe you have some flashcards at home already. The 4th character is the body part. And what I believe I was about to tell you guys is that when you build an ICD-10 PCS code, you go from left to right, and you can never You can never do like a tic-tac-toe. And what do I mean by that? You can't go from one part, one box, like let's say you're over here at esophagus. Um, you can't go down to this box and then go back up to this box and then down to this box. You have to build it from left to right. Now, you probably are wondering, well, I don't understand. What do you mean? So, if you notice, the letter F is large intestine right. But then, whoa, you see large intestine right here as well. So the difference is going this path across the fifth character, which is the approach, the options are these. Whereas here, there's only one fifth character option, which is this 4. So I'm going to talk about the fifth character next. Let's see. The fifth character is called the approach. Uh-oh, flashcard alert. There are 7 approaches. I recommend that you make flashcards for the approaches as well. And let me come back to this table and let me see if I go to the definitions. I don't use this electronic version that often, so I don't know everything that's in here. But here are the 7 approaches. So the approaches themselves are either through the skin or mucous membrane, or via a natural or artificial opening, or external. And so you see that first root operation, or that first approach is external, and you see the definition: procedures performed directly on the skin or mucous membrane. And then you see the remaining ones. So to help you put it in perspective, the approaches that are through the skin or mucous membrane are open, percutaneous, and percutaneous endoscopic. So let me say that again. The approaches that are through the skin or mucous membrane are open, percutaneous, or percutaneous endoscopic. So that's the 3 of the 7. Then the approaches that are through an opening are via natural or artificial opening, via natural or artificial opening endoscopic, via natural or artificial opening with percutaneous endoscopic assistance, and then you have external. So one thing I would encourage you to do is when you're making your flashcards and such, when you see some definitions that are similar on your flashcard, you should maybe like draw a box around the word that's the difference, so that you can, make your eyeballs call attention to that thing. So like, for example, via natural or artificial opening, via natural or artificial opening endoscopic, via natural or artificial opening with percutaneous endoscopic assistance. Okay, so it should be clear that in the second and the third option, there's a slight difference. But you need to ask yourself, what's the difference? So, entry of instrumentation through a natural or artificial external opening to reach the site of the procedure. But then when you go to the second one, it's reach and visualize the site of the procedure. Let me just tell you, one little word can change the code description. And so it's important that you pick up on that one little word. Then entry of instrumentation through a natural or artificial opening, and entry by puncture or major incision of instrumentation through the skin or mucous membrane and other body layers necessary to aid in the performance of the procedure. Now, the really cool thing about this very last one, there are only two body systems that we could use this approach with. It's gastrointestinal for the root operation, excision, and resection. And the female reproductive system for resection. So that seventh I keep wanting to say root operation. That seventh approach has limited use. Okay, so now that was character number 5, the approach. Let me go back to the beginning and back to the tables. I was at 0 dB. No, yeah, 0 dB. And so character number 6, which is the device. So it's the device if applicable. And only devices that remain at the conclusion of the procedure are coded as devices. Let me say that again. Only devices that remain at the conclusion of the procedure are coded as devices. This is important because when you're reading through the report and you see a device, you have to ask yourself, is this a device that's going to remain in place at the conclusion of the procedure? So for example, last September, I fell and fractured my ankle, and I have screws and plates in my ankle. Those are devices that remained at the conclusion of the procedure. Devices that are used as a part of the procedure but are removed as the procedure ends, those are not coded as devices because they do not remain in the body. Devices could be that you'll see that are integral to the procedure but not devices. You might see something like a Jackson Pratt drain, sutures, or other types of similar items. All right, there are 4 categories of devices. And let me go back to the definitions. And I keep going back and forward here because this is recorded. And I want to make sure that you guys are seeing these things. All right, so this appears to be a long list of devices. All right, well, they are here. But there are 4 groups of devices. You have a graft and prosthesis. So the first one, graft and prosthesis. The second group, I should say, is an implant. The third is a simple or mechanical appliance. And then the fourth is an electronic appliance. So there are 4 groups of devices. First, a graft and a prosthesis. So think of a joint prosthesis in a hip replacement. That's one example. Then you have implants. So implants are therapeutic material that is not absorbed, eliminated, or incorporated into a body part. So think of Somebody who has urinary incontinence or uterine prolapse, and they put like a pessary in there. So it's not absorbed, it's not eliminated, it's not incorporated into the body part. It can be removed. But a pessary, for example, could be used to treat that urinary incontinence. Okay. Simple or mechanical appliances. Um, Perfect example, a tracheostomy device. So, a simple or mechanical appliance is a biologic or synthetic material that assists or prevents a physiologic function. A pacemaker could also be an example of a device, but the question is, what type of device would that be? And that would be like, so the fourth category is an electronic device. So that takes the place, monitors, or prevents some physiologic function. And so a perfect example could be like a, what do you call that thing when you, a hearing implant device, right? So it has like a receiver, an electrode, a transmitter. Um, yeah, so those are the four categories of device. And whew, the seventh character. I'm going to quiz you guys in a minute, so I hope you're ready. The seventh character is, oh, let me get back in the manual. Table, medical and surgical, gastrointestinal, excision. All right. The seventh character is a qualifier. And this particular character provides additional information about the code. So, for example, um, if you have a stomach biopsy, that would be a seventh character of X, because the purpose of a biopsy is to diagnose a problem, right? Um, I would say that most of the codes that are in the medical and surgical section have a character of Z, which is no qualifier. And you'll see that as you go through the different codes. All right, so now I would like um, I would like to quiz you because I want to make sure that all of this is sticking, because between the tornado and that that break, um, you might have forgotten some things. Hopefully, you were cleaning up your notes while I was in the basement waiting. So, and you can turn on your camera and not your camera, turn on your microphone and answer the question when I ask it. You don't have to say your name because I know your names by now, but I want to see what you remember. So here's my first question. How many characters are in an ICD-10-PCS code?
7.
7, yes. Okay. My next question is, now, did I say there was going to be an exam at some point? So, this is a great opportunity to practice. All right. Which letters are not used in PCS?
O and I. O and
O
I.
and I, because they can be confused with 0 and 1. Okay. My next question. Oh, this is a good question. When was ICD-10-PCS implemented?
2015. Is it?
October 1, 2015.
October 1st, 2015. So it is the 10th year anniversary coming up in October. All right. My next question is who are the four cooperating parties of ICD-10-PCS?
AHA, AHIMA, CMS, and NCHS.
Okay, I think I heard, and I'm going to put it on the screen. I think I heard AHA, AHIMA, CMS, and NCHS. All right. Who mandates that we use ICD-10 PCS codes? Or what mandates? It's a law. It's a law.
HIPAA.
HIPAA, yes, HIPAA mandates. It is one of the 5 approved code sets. All right. ICD-10 PCS is for what type of setting?
Inpatient.
Inpatient only. And we're not talking about if the doctor sees the patient in the inpatient setting, it's only reported by the facility. Okay. Here's another question. Who what other countries are using ICD-10 PCS?
None.
None. It's ours. Ours alone. All right. I did tell you that there were more than 78,000 codes, but what I did not tell you, which I hope that you would know, these codes are updated annually, with a new version being effective October 1. And actually, let me take that back. Actually, we get a manual once a year, but the system is updated twice a year. And I don't know if you guys know this, but it's October 1st and April 1st. April 1st happens to be my birthday, which is how I keep up with it. But um, so there may be codes that are pushed through or guidelines that are pushed through and on April 1st. And there actually are some new things happening for April 1st of this year. Okay, let me see. Oh, I also told you about you can get some CEUs by attending the Coordination and Maintenance Committee, which is not happening this April. We will see if it is going to happen in October. All right, let's move on to some other types of questions. How many sections are in PCS?
17.
17 sections. And which section is the largest?
Medical and surgical.
Medical and surgical. All right. Speaking of medical and surgical, what is the first character value for a medical and surgical code?
System? Zero?
It is a 0. It is a 0. Medical and surgical codes begin with a 0. All right, so we know that all PCS codes have 7 characters. And in the medical and surgical section, the first character is the section. What is the second character called?
Body system.
The body system. And how many body systems are in PCS?
31.
31. And there's so many because it allows for specificity in the code. Oh, something I want to tell you. Do not apply CPT rules with PCS. I thought I'd just throw that in there because I know that 99% of you all are CPT coders. Do not apply CPT rules. All right. What is the third character of a medical and surgical code?
Root operation.
Root operation. And the root operation describes what? Starts with
The
an O.
objective of the procedure.
Yes, the objective of the procedure. And I have found it to be the most difficult part, the objective, because doctors don't learn PCS coding. So, for example, you can be looking at a medical record and the doctor says, I removed some of the stomach and sent it for a biopsy. That is an excision, not a resection. He may say, I resected part of the stomach. That is not a resection, it is an excision. So you must learn those 31 root operations so that you can review the medical record documentation and determine what was the objective of the procedure. Okay. Oh, the 31 root operations are organized into how many groups? You might have forgot that one. It's 9. And I said I was going to tell you the 9 groups shortly, but not right now. So the 31 root operations are organized into 9 groups. I recommend that you learn them in those groups because it would be helpful to learn them one group at a time. Okay. Character number 4 is what?
Body part.
Body part. And the body part is in relation to
The body system.
the body system. Nia is on a roll. Go Nia. Go Nia. All right. And oh, I know what else I told you about the body part. So there are up to 34 body part values available for each body system. Let me say that again. There are up to 34 body part values available for each body system. And I also told you that they are made up of 24 of the 26 letters plus 10 numbers. And we don't have an O and I, so it's not confused with a 0 and a 1. All right, what is character number 5?
Approach.
The approach. And how many approaches are there for medical and surgical?
7.
7.
7. I see 4 of you jumped in. All right. So you have the approaches that are through the skin or mucous membrane, which is open, percutaneous, and percutaneous endoscopic. Then you have the 3 that's via a natural or artificial opening, and then you have external. Number 6 is the device. How many groups are there of the devices?
4. 4.
4. And what are the 4 groups?
Graft and prosthesis, implant, simple/non mechanical, and electronic.
Yes, Flora Lynn in the house. All right. Let's see. Oh, and then we have character number 7, which is
Qualifier.
qualifier. And most of the codes in the medical and surgical section end in the character Z, which means
No qualifier.
no qualifier. And one that I think we will probably use a lot in our time together is the X. And X is for
Diagnostic.
diagnostic. Yes. Oh, something I didn't tell you. So the diagnostic qualifier of X is when we use the root operation of excision, extraction, or drainage. Excision, extraction, or drainage. Excision, extraction, or drainage. Whew, that was a lot. All right. Everybody all good with that basic overview?
Can I ask a quick question real quick?
Sure.
For the what you just said. So the one thing that when normal CBT that comes up in my everyday is like colonoscopy with biopsy. So as long even if they're doing like a swab of some sort, would that qualify um, as an X for diagnostic?
So the answer is if the objective of the specimen
Mhm.
is to arrive at a diagnosis, then it is diagnostic.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Yeah.
All right. So now, let's talk about how we build B U BUILD, how we build a code. So, real world, you could use a code book, you could use this file, and many of you are using encoders at work. There's only 2 of you who are currently doing inpatient coding. But no matter what you use, you first have to have a thorough understanding of the system. Okay. So, step number 1, this is for all systems, review the medical record. And when you review the medical record, review the operative report, you need to determine what is the objective of the procedure. This is important because it will help you figure out what's your root operation. And this review is basically you're looking at the operative report and perhaps other parts of the medical record. So you need to know those root operations. You need to know them by groups. It will help you with the process. But also, if you think about building the code, once you get your root operation, you got to know what's my body part, right? And then how did they get there? And speaking of, oh, and then was there any devices that was left after the procedure was performed? So I'm going to give you a worksheet that you can use. I like worksheets to keep track of your notes, if you will. But let's say that we have read the medical record. The next thing that we're going to do is to build our code. And just so I can kind of bring this to life, um, let me put in the chat, or actually, I will put it on the screen. So just give me a second. I'm gonna put a scenario on the screen. Oh, y'all let me forget about this. What did I say about Susie?
She buys root beer at Dairy Queen.
And and why is that important?
The sister section, the body system, the root operation, the body part, the approach, the device, and the qualifier.
Yes, yes, and yes, yes, yes. Okay. So let's do an example. And let me type here. So let's say our patient has a diagnosis of carcinoma of the stomach. Uh-oh, the box kind of moving. Oh, that's because the font is too big. Okay, 1 second. And the reason why I'm calling out the diagnoses is because I think it's very helpful for you to understand the understand what's wrong with the patient so that you can understand what's happening today. So I always recommend that you do that. Okay. So let's say that the procedure is an exploratory laparotomy and a liver biopsy. You know, I had to throw that biopsy in there. A liver biopsy. And let me make these bigger because I need to see. My husband just told me today that I need to face the fact that I need bifocals or something. I don't know. I'm still young. I don't need any bifocals. All right. Okay, so diagnoses, carcinoma of the stomach, and procedure, exploratory laparotomy, and a liver biopsy. So let me tell you about the patient because I think that would be helpful. So we got this patient who's had a GI workup because they lost 60 pounds. And they did a GI series x-ray that showed a large space occupying lesion in the fundus of the stomach. Just like with CPT, when you're reading reports in PCS, you need to just follow the surgeon's hand, follow the story. Okay. And so based on that GI test, x-ray test, they gave a diagnosis of carcinoma of the stomach. Okay. So they did some additional tests and they didn't see that the patient had any metastasis. So they decided, let's go to the OR and open the patient up. That's where we get that exploratory laparotomy for. Now, don't forget, as you're reading through reports, it is critical that you are thinking about the root operation, the body part, the approach, the device, the qualifier, if it applies. Okay. So, all right. So they decided to do this. So they get to the OR, they drug them up, they clean up the area. Well, they clean the area, drug them up. All right. And then they make an incision to explore the abdomen. They entered the peritoneum. They manually explored and found this mass on the posterior wall of the fundus of the stomach. So let's pause for a second and identify what we know. We know that the patient had the carcinoma of the stomach, right? They knew that before they went in there. And they opened the patient up. They could see it with their naked eye. They made an upper midline incision to explore the abdomen. There was no scope involved. It was open to the provider's naked eye. They saw the peritoneum. They manually explored and they found a large mass on the posterior wall of the fundus of the stomach. They saw it. After that, they decided to continue exploring and they ran into the left lobe of the liver. And they took a portion of the liver for biopsy. So let's pause for a minute. What have we done? Not what have we done? What did the doctor do so far? Uh-oh, I don't hear anybody talking now.
Well, he started with an exploratory laparotomy. So he made an incision and looked around.
Looked around. I like that. Looked
Yeah.
around. Keep it simple. He looked around with his eyes.
Right. And like you said, he had previously been, they previously knew that he had the carcinoma of the stomach and he saw that mass. He continued to look around and decided to do a liver biopsy on the left lobe of the liver.
Mm-hmm. And did he do anything else with the stomach?
Um,
I didn't say he did.
yeah, I didn't remember. I thought maybe I forgot, but I didn't remember you saying anything else.
Nope, he didn't do nothing with that stomach.
Right.
He saw that liver mass and said,
Keep it
let me
moving.
biopsy this. Let me check this out. Let me check this out. So the next thing that happens, let me get the code book back up. Uh-oh, I think mine went away. All right, I'm gonna have to refresh my screen because my code book went away. Okay. Well, um give me a second because it said bye-bye. Um, let's see. Oh, and I actually have several files that I'm gonna upload tonight that I want you to have for PCS. I meant to, once I was having this conversation with myself, literally, like, you can't go into domain number 1 until you go over PCS, because what had occurred to me is that some of you don't know PCS, and I don't I don't want it to be something that you learn at the last minute. I want it to be something that you have some time to digest. All right, so we read through our scenario, and let me give the high level review again. So we know that they came in, they said they was going to do an exploratory laparotomy and liver biopsy. And I should not have to say this, but I will say this. When you're reading the operative report, you cannot code from the header of the report. You have to read the entire report to see what went down. So we got this patient who lost 60 pounds. They did some GI studies. They saw there was a lesion in the fundus of the stomach. They established a diagnosis of carcinoma of the stomach. They didn't see that there was any metastasis. They did some other stomach, so other testing. So they were like, let's just go and open them up and look around. So when you're reading reports, you got to read it just like that. They opened them up and looked around. So they did a midline incision to explore the abdomen. And that sentence is important because we now know that it was open. It was no scope used. It was open to the naked eye. And they looked around. They found this mass on the posterior wall of the fundus of the stomach. And then they saw what appeared to be like a tumor on the left lobe of the liver. And they said, let's take out a portion of this and send it to the lab. And then, oh, I forgot to tell you, they did close them up. I don't want you to think that they didn't close the patient up. So the very next step, and let me just be clear about PCS guidelines. PCS guidelines say, hey, you don't have to go to the index to look up the code. If you know the table, you can go right there. Now, I will tell you, I personally always go to the index because I don't know the table. Now, you could, in theory, say, well, I know it's medical and surgical. Um, let's see. The part that they worked on was the liver. So that's the hepatobiliary system and pancreas. You can say, I know they did a biopsy. So that's the root operation of excision. And you can get right to the table. All right. So we know. Oh, and it was, let me just go back for a second. It was the left lobe of the liver. I want to make sure I state that. So now I'm looking at this table and I see liver a couple of times. I see liver 0, liver right lobe, liver left lobe, liver 0, liver right lobe, liver left lobe. And there's a rule about me building a code. I cannot play tic tac toe. I must go across. Well, I know that my patient had an open procedure. So I'm not even going to look down here. I'm going to be up here. So I have 0FB. I have, is it a 0, 1, or 2? 0, 1, or 2? Left
Two.
lobe,
2.
2. Okay. And then the approach was open. That's a 0. There's no device left in the conclusion of this procedure. And my qualifier is X because it's a biopsy. And that, folks, is how you build an ICD-10-PCS code. Now, I took you through the table part, but now I want to take you through the index. So in the index, you would have to go to the root operation, which is excision. Now, I know you're thinking, whoo, that means I got to scroll. Yes, but the index is not as long as CM, right? So I go to excision, and under excision, I have to go to my body part. And in my case, my body part is the liver. And sorry if I'm making you dizzy, but I'm trying to get there quickly. Okay, liver, left lobe, right lobe. Ours is the left lobe. And if you click on this, it takes you back to that table that we were just at, and you can continue building your code. Now, in case you haven't figured it out, let me go back. In the physical version of the manual, you literally would be going and locating the liver, and then you would turn over to table 0FB. The tables always begin with 3 characters. So table 0FB, and then you would continue building from there. You would know that it's the 2 for the liver, but you would reconfirm it and you would build it from there. So that, folks, is ICD-10 PCS. Anybody overwhelmed? Okay, that's good. So let's take a break, 10-minute break, which will put us right at 8 o'clock. And we will spend the rest of the night coding more scenarios. Hi, everybody. So, welcome back for break. And I'm going to put some basic scenarios up on the screen for you to code, just for you to just get used to using the manual before we take it up to the next level, before we go higher. All right. So hopefully you were able to get through a couple of them. So for the first case, which is the percutaneous biopsy of the ileum, what's the root operation?
0DB.
The root operation.
Excision.
Excision is the root operation. Okay, and then Jonathan, you were going to say the code.
Yeah.
Ready?
Yeah. 0DB B3ZX.
All right. Anybody disagree with that code? FYI, tonight's recording, when you go to access it from the system, will be in 2 parts. Just as a FYI, in case you want to go back and review these scenarios. Okay, excision of the right ear. What's the root operation?
Excision.
Excision. And anybody got the code?
0HB 2XZX.
Do I have too many letters?
0HB 2XZX.
ZX. Now, that number 2 was not a biopsy.
Oh, yeah. It should be ZZ.
It should be ZZ. Okay. Bronchoscopy. This was the easiest one. Root operation.
Inspection.
Because you're just looking around. Remember, the root operation is what's the objective of the procedure. All right, who has a code?
0BJ 08ZZ.
All right, inspection. And do you notice how, if you were taking a multiple choice test like you are for your CCS, how that root operation of excision is a third character B. The root operation inspection is a third character of J. All right, inspection of a toenail, external approach, root operation.
Inspection.
Inspection, and then a code. They all start with a 0.
0HJR.ZZ.
Okay, 0HJRXZZ. All right. Insertion of an implantable heart assist system into the heart, percutaneous endoscopic approach. Root operation.
Insertion.
All right, and the code.
02HA3QZ.
I want to see if everybody agrees with that.
I have
028. Yeah, what's the difference between the 4 and the 3? It's that percutaneous endoscopic approach. And I think earlier I told you that it was 2 systems that has the PEA, but now I'm thinking it's 3.
4. It was 4. I'm sorry, I wrote the wrong thing.
Okay. Okay. Let me just make myself a note, because for the percutaneous endoscopic, oh no, I was thinking of something else. Assistance. Okay. Excision of a left thumbnail, thumb phalanx open approach. We know the root operation is excision. And the code is
OPBSOZZ.
who?
No, sorry, 0.
0 P
BS 0 ZZ.
no O. All right. Insertion of external fixation device into the right ankle, open approach. Root operation is
Insertion.
Insertion.
and then the code is
0.
0.
Continue.
Oh, 0SHF05Z.
y'all jamming on these. Okay. Removal of an internal fixation device. Root operation.
Removal.
Removal. And something that should be noted, some root operations can only be used for certain purposes. So removal is only for removal of a device. I'll talk more about root operations on Monday because I'll introduce the groups. And by then, you'll have your flashcards done. So root operation of removal, and the code is
0 PP K05Z.
anybody agree, disagree?
0 PPK43Z.
So you're saying the fifth character, which is the approach, is what number?
Is it 4? Or should be 3 only. Sorry.
Oh, I don't know. I want to see what you guys are thinking.
I have 0K34Z.
You have 0 PPK
34Z.
34Z. Explain why.
That's what I have too.
That is correct code, but they need to know why.
Is the percutaneous approach?
Percutaneous approach, and then you had a device, which is an internal fixation device, right?
Yes.
Uh-huh. Okay, so you had a taste of several roots. Destruction of appendix, percutaneous approach. Root operation,
Destruction.
and the code
0D5J3ZZ.
Okay, and last but not least, percutaneous drainage of left frontal sinus. Root operation is
Drainage.
Drainage.
and the code is
0993ZZ.
everybody agree with the 3 for the approach? For number 10?
I have
Yeah.
the same thing.
Me too.
Okay, so today you got a crash course on PCS. You definitely probably want to listen to the recording. But also on my YouTube channel, I have some videos on PCS, and I'm going to drop the link in the chat because I think I code about 10 operative reports. So it'll give you some additional practice. Now let me just show you the screen because it's from 2019. However, um, you will see that with several of the videos, I am talking about things like body parts, approaches, dissecting an operative report, and then you actually see me with operative reports in my hand, and you can see me writing on the documentation and highlighting and doing some other things. So I would highly recommend this weekend that you go through those and make your flashcards. So on Monday, it'll be two things. I will talk about the 9 groups of root operations, and then we'll end our day with a basic PCS exam, because I want you to keep the momentum going, but of course we have to go higher. As I'm sure you guys know, real world PCS coding isn't that little one-liner situation, but I want to make sure that we got a basic foundation, so that as you go through those 15 charts that are due March 31st, um, that that you will have had time to learn PCS. I don't know if this is true in your PCS manual, but in the Optum version of the PCS manual, they do have sample exercises. Um, who who picked up the manual?